When the wicked rule, the people live in tears and fears. But when the righteous rules, the people rejoice. There's no doubt the Edo State Civil Service has witnessed a new dawn of glory since the inauguration of Mr. Godwin Nogegase Obaseki as the Chief Executive Governor of Edo State on November 12, 2016. In this exclusive documentary on the transformation and reformation of the Edo State Civil Service, the Governor, His Excellency Mr. Godwin Nogegase Obaseki, led us into what inspired him to reform and transform the Edo State Civil Service.
Everywhere in the world where you have institutions, you normally have a bureaucracy that run the institution. In the case of government, the civil service is that bureaucracy that is responsible for making government function. The civil service, being the bureaucracy, ensures that things are done the way we have agreed that they should be done as per the Constitution. So elections will happen periodically, but the civil service is that institution that allows the politician or the new government to be able to carry out its programs and policies. And over the years, from independence through the various coups, through the Civil War, the civil service has been greatly affected. And in the case of Edo, it had become challenged. One of the big challenges we found is we saw the civil service as an aging workforce. The civil service was not being renewed. There were long spells in which people were not recruited into the civil service. Even when they were recruited, there was not a structured and organized training for them to help them do the work you expect them to do. So, coming in as governor, it was very clear to me that if we had to succeed as an administration, we had to succeed as a government, one of the key things to do will be to re-energize the civil service, to first retool and reskill the civil service. The good thing is that a lot of the civil servants, are very qualified. They went to universities, they were hired through a system. So they're not people who don't know, they're not dullards. But if you hire a man for 20 years, you haven't helped the person improve, you haven't trained the person, the person will continue to do what they knew how to do 20 years ago. So you have to reskill the civil service, you have to retool the civil service. It was very clear to us. And for us, that whole process required first looking at the design of the public service, looking at the design of the civil service in its entirety, and looking at what are the critical things you need to do. The first we realized was to give the civil servant a sense of self-worth and certainty. Certainty that you will be respected, your job is secure, and on a certain date every month, come rain, come sun, you will earn your pay, your salary. So that certainty and sense of self-esteem had to first be restored in the civil servants. Secondly, you had to also improve the environment in which they work, because environment is everything. The second day after I resumed, I believe it was on the 14th or 15th of November 2016, I paid a visit to the Secretariat and Palm House specifically, and I was very disturbed by what I saw. The environment in which civil servants were working. Apart from it being filthy, it was very dangerous, because that building is a very old building. And a lot of the partitioning was done with plywood. I looked at the fire escape. The fire escape was littered with files. So you imagine there's a fire in that building. What will have happened, or what will happen to the people working in that building? So for me, you cannot expect a high sense of productivity from people who you have put in a dungeon, as it were, who you haven't created an environment, a suitable environment for them to work. The other thing we found out was the average civil servant, because they hadn't been trained over time, they didn't have a very keen sense of service delivery. They don't ask themselves, why do I come to work every day? What am I expected to do? What am I expected to deliver on? Because this had not been taught, the systems, the processes had become blurred over time. So we felt that one of the key things to do was to re-establish that sense of service delivery, that you are a civil servant. Your responsibility is to serve the public. So you have to be taught on how to serve and what to serve. And that will require reorientation and training. The last thing is about inclusiveness and ownership. You know, there's, I get to know about parlance, the one that's commonly used, that this job is government work, that you don't carry it on your head, you can't put it on your shoulder, so at any point you can drop it off. That does not demonstrate ownership. You know, you must do it like your business. You must do the job as if it's your business, personal to you. There has to be that sense of ownership of the entire system, because if it breaks, it affects everyone. If things are not done properly, right, it affects everybody. If the accounting system doesn't work, everybody is delayed, their payments are delayed. So that sense of ownership and inclusiveness had to be, re-established. And it means that in doing this, there must be a sense of a shared culture, a shared value. What do we have in common? And how does this serve the public good? Well, put it in a nutshell. We have close to 60,000 public servants, and it costs us about 30 billion or so on an annual basis to remunerate them or compensate them. From what I have seen, the jury's out. Are we getting 30 billion of value from these people we're paying? So the purpose is that it's like value for money. So you want to get a full day's job from the person you have paid a full day's pay. And you can only do that when you do several things. Like I said, it's not that they're not willing to in some cases, but they have to be thought to, they have to be helped, they have to be energized, they have to be motivated to be able to deliver service and value. And we're beginning to see, you'll see changes. Take the teachers, for instance. We're just retraining those teachers and giving them the tools. Our children are learning better. So, so we're likely to produce another generation of children who have been properly trained at the basic level. If we extend that to healthcare, whether at the primary level or the secondary or the specialist level, if we extend that to the environment, if we extend that to everything we're doing, you find out that society will just be better for it.
For almost 4 years of his reign as the governor of Edo State, not a single strike action or protest by Edo State civil servants and pensioners because of the cordial relationship that now exists between Edo State government and her workers. The wait-and-see governor tells us more about his magic wand and his many other plans for the Edo State civil service in his second tenure, inshallah. Verily, verily, even the deaf can hear, and the blind can attest to the reformation and transformation of His Excellency, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, has brought into the Edo State Civil Service for the past 3.5 years of his administration, and the civil servants and pensioners will never forget in a hurry the new lease of life they now enjoy.
Well, look, in life, like they say, you always have enough for what is important to you. You have enough for your key needs. You may not have for your greed. So what we found is that we've prioritized our key need. The biggest asset we have as a government are our civil servants, our public servants. And because they are a priority, we prioritize them. So their payments are a first-line charge. We may not have enough for overheads, we may not have enough to do the extra travels, to do the things we used to do in the past, to buy the fleet of cars. I don't have a large convoy because I cannot afford it. But I believe that my convoy is less important than the salary of that officer who works for me. So it's my priority number one would be to pay those who work for me or who work for us than to take care of my extra needs, the extra cars or the extra travels which we can go. The real transformation will occur in the second term. The first term was to build confidence, to reassure them that they are valued, they are important, they are required, they are necessary. We know some of them are overworked because we have not hired, there are lots of vacancies. But the second term is to get them to work smarter, to work better. Experiment with the teachers shows us that if you train people, if you teach them, if you imbue them with the skills, then you'll be able to get more out of them. That is why the priority for the second term is the Chief John Oyegu Academy for Public Service. An academy because you want to train. We want to move the civil service from a manual platform to an electronic platform. People need to be trained over again. People need to learn how to use technology. People learn how to, follow the processes, to have efficiency in service delivery. So the future is about training, and training. Capacity building.
Yes.
Making sure that the processes are very clear, making sure that there's transparency, and making sure that there's value for money.
Beautiful.
I think the first thing is to change, like I said, retool the process so that the replacements you are bringing in now are going to work slightly differently from the ones who are leaving. Because at the time, most people who are retiring now were hired about 35 years ago. Technology was not as prolific and was not as commonplace as it is today. So the type of replacements will be, or people were hiring are people who are going to train extensively in the use of technology. By the time I leave as governor of Edo State, I would not want to deal with paper files anymore. I want our files to all be electronic. So from wherever I am, I can attend to files and attend to state matters. I want to be able to see through what everybody is doing. You want to, like with the teachers today, I can tell whether a teacher is in class or not. So I want to be able to tell her that civil servant came to work and did the work they're supposed to do for that day. Today with COVID, if I want to have a meeting with you, you don't have to come to me physically. I can have a meeting with you in your office or even if you're working from home. I think the first thing you must understand as a governor, your key responsibility is to govern your people, everybody, not just a few people. It wasn't like your governments in the past, but I don't know why they did not see that it is better for the society if you cater for the majority of the people. Also, because of my experience, don't forget, I was on the presidential committee on the reform of the pension system in this country, which led to the creation of PENCA. Interestingly, Comrade Shomole served on that panel. That was the first time I met him. And with, having gone through the experience of pensioners, it was clear to me that something needed to be done to fix this problem. Because you don't expect stability, social stability, if those who have worked and served a system, by the time they leave that system, nobody cares for them. What will happen is that it will not, for those who are in the system, it will not be an impetus for them to put in their best. So for the sake of the system, for the sake of the public service, it was important to prioritize pensioners. And what did we do? First, we realized that over the years, government was not putting aside money to take care of the people who worked for. Because the defined benefit scheme which government adopted presupposed that on an annual basis, budgetary provisions will be made and set aside to compensate or pay those who had worked. There's also the presupposition that on an annual basis, there will be more production, more productivity, more revenues earned to take care of, past services rendered. But that wasn't done. I didn't see any redemption accounts, to pay. So the first thing we did was to draw the line and move the civil service from a defined benefits arrangement to a defined contributory scheme. Okay. The first one. So we drew the line. Okay. Having drawn the line, we solved the problem, which is that future pensioners will not go through what current pensioners are going through. The money to pay their pension is being set aside, and we've seen it, and they know it, and they can see it in their accounts. Okay, having solved that problem, say, okay, how do we now deal with the problems of those who worked under the old system? We then had to task ourselves to ensure that on a monthly basis, a certain amount is set aside to take care of their outstandings due to that. And that discipline of making sure you put money aside every month now made it possible that we were able to pay current pensions and offset arrears from the past. We also found out that there were some administrative inconsistencies or occurrences that created the problem, which is that civil servants never give enough notification and documentation prior to them with their retirement. So we now made it compulsory that 6 months to your retirement, the processing of your retirement papers must commence and be completed before your retirement date. That now made it possible that if you retire this month, by the following month, because we have all your paperwork, you automatically transit into pension, and then you begin to earn your pension. Like I said, it will be difficult to change because you now have the defined contributory scheme. I mean, it's every month a certain portion of your salary and a certain portion of the government's contribution is made into an account for your retirement. It will be difficult to stop that because it is a law. It is a law. In terms of the current outstandings, we have reduced drastically the arrears, and I believe that before I would have finished paying the arrears. I am setting up a redemption fund. I think it's a redemption fund, which the law also stipulates, where we will now have to look for the means and the resources to put money in a particular fund to take care of gratuity and other gratuities. And that fund will ensure that into the future, until this set of pensioners are called by God, they will get what is due to them. Like I said in the beginning, if you always focus on your priorities, if, like I said, salary payments, civil servant welfare is a priority, then you will do everything that is required to ensure that you make the sacrifices, to meet those priorities. So, fortunately for us, we didn't have to move from 18 to 30. We're already at 25, and so it was not too difficult to now move the minimum wage from 25 to 30. But it also requires a lot of financial planning. Don't forget, my background is finance, and so you anticipate. I've always anticipated that with inflation, salaries will it will never remain static. So for me, I won't be surprised, and I'm actually planning, for a situation where even the minimum wage will need to be increased, in the near future, because whether we like it or not, there's a factor of inflation we need to deal with, and all of these adjustments need to be made in workers' salaries. So I hope that we can get enough productivity, get the civil servants to work harder, to be more productive, and then that will be enough justification to increase salaries. I don't think we should focus on the minimum wage. No. Yes. We should rather focus on productivity. Right? A man is worth, the wages he earns. So if you produce 50,000, your value you give me is, in excess of what I'm paying you, then it's only fair when I pay you more. From what we have seen going on around the world today, the Edo elections have become very emotional. Very, very emotional. And we see a lot of people coming out there to protect their interests by coming out to vote. Like you said, there's a reason why they've come out to vote. A pensioner wants to ensure that he continues to receive his pension. So I expect that it would not just be enough for him to go and vote. He will also will educate them that they wait to ensure that the votes are counted, and those votes matter. And you can never defeat the will of the people.
It
is not possible. So I'm not where they want to come and use federal league, but I don't think they'll be able to, because from what I've seen, the passion of the people is just
overwhelming. If something different happens.
Precisely.
Verily, verily, even the deaf can hear, and the blind can attest to the reformation and transformation of His Excellency, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, has brought into the Edo State Civil Service for the past 3.5 years of his administration, and the civil servants and pensioners will never forget in a hurry the new lease of life they now enjoy.